Good evening, this is William, and welcome to the latest installment of I Was a Teenage Daydreamer, where I discuss mostly music, some literature, some film, and some random things that I enjoy, and hopefully you do as well. Tonight is another ranking video where I discuss an artist's albums from my least favorite to my favorite, but this one's a little bit different because I will not be doing the entire catalog, only one era of that catalog. This is a band that's been around for close to 60 years, has been through a lot of lineup changes, and stylistically has changed dramatically from their early days to their heyday, and that is the great Fleetwood Mac. So, as most all of you know, Fleetwood Mac has Mick Fleetwood on drums, Jim McVie on bass, and they are the mainstays throughout this band's entire career. They are on every album, and the rest of the musicians change fairly frequently. Solidified there in the mid 70s or so for a few years, but up to that point, and then after that point, just lineup changes galore. So again, as most of you know, started off as a British heavy blues band. Heavy blues were super popular in the mid to late 60s, led by a guy named Peter Green, the late great Peter Green, on guitar and vocals, and then another guitarist and vocalist named Jeremy Spencer. And those first couple of albums are fine. Heavy blues is not really my thing, but because it's Fleetwood Mac, I, of course, have given them quite a bit of a listen, and I like songs like Rattlesnake Shake and things like that. But it's not really until their third album when they add yet a third guitarist named Danny Kirwan, who is quite a bit younger than the rest of the band, on guitar and vocals, and also a songwriter. And Danny was way ahead of his time. Very atmospheric, very melodic, and I think he helped move the band away from heavy blues. They started incorporating more folk, more just standard rock, and their third album, Then Play On, from 1969, is just a fantastic album that combines all of their strengths. And again, not heavy blues, but some of that in there, not rock and roll, but some of that in there. It just really blends everything well together. And then Peter Green left the band. He did record one more non-album single for them called The Green Manalishi with a two-pronged crown, which is a harrowing experience and hands down my favorite Fleetwood Mac song. They never did anything else like that ever again. It's just, well, you just track it down, listen to it. It's amazing. And so with Peter Green gone, Jeremy Spencer takes over, and they do one album in 1970 called Kiln House. A lot of that is an homage to 50s rock and roll, which was Jeremy Spencer's big thing, and then Danny Kirwan doing his deal. I like the Danny songs a lot. The Jeremy Spencer songs, I can take or leave. It's a fine album, but it also does produce that era produces another non-album single that I really like called Dragonfly. It's a Danny Kirwan song, and I actually didn't know about it until fairly recently, and that became my goal to track it down on 7-inch, and I finally did, but that's another story. Anyway, so Jeremy Spencer steps out. Christine McVie, Christine Perfect, who then became Christine McVie, who was in a band called Chicken Shack that had some notoriety. She joins on vocals and keys, and of course is also an amazing songwriter. And then they got an American joining the band, a guy named Bob Welch, a great guitar player, excellent songwriter, really good vocalist. And he led the band for 4 years, from 1971 to 1974, and 5 albums. Moving progressively towards a more radio-friendly sound. And then after, years of touring and, some record sales, some minor hits, but, nothing really substantial, he leaves the band just basically from exhaustion. And that left the door open for Stevie Nicks and Lindsey Buckingham to join. And of course, the rest is music history. Millions of albums sold. Dozens, well, not dozens, but several well-known songs that are still radio staples today, that even my mom has heard, but she's probably never heard of the band Fleetwood Mac before. Anyway, so I will be focusing on the Bob Welch era. Growing up, I was not a Fleetwood Mac fan. I knew the hits. I knew who they were. I remember they were on tour for Tango in the Night in the later 80s. And it wasn't until I was out of college and I was dating a girl that was a Fleetwood Mac fan, had the 75 self-titled album and Rumors. And I was like, oh, yeah, man, these songs are great. And these deep cuts are great, too. And then the internet, exploring all that, I somehow stumble upon the fact that they had 9 albums before Buckingham Nicks even, came into the fold. And I was in Tullahoma, Tennessee with said girlfriend, and at the mall there, and the music store had a bunch of cassette tapes they were trying to get rid of, and I bought Bare Trees from 1971 for 25 cents, and the rest is history, at least in my life. So I will rank these albums pretty quickly, and I'll start off with the 4th album in this lineup and the 2nd in 1973, and that's Mystery to Me. So this lineup includes Mick Fleetwood, Jim McVie, Bob Welch, Christine McVie, and a guy named Bob Weston on guitars, lead guitars, and some vocals. So Emerald Eyes starts it off, a Bob Welch song that's great. He's got a song later on in his solo career called Ebony Eyes. If that man wrote anything about A Color of Eyes, that song is going to be great. And then Christine McVie has 2 in a row, Believe Me and Just Crazy Love. Just Crazy Love is a lot of fun. And, look, Christine McVie, she was always reliable to have a great offering of songs, no matter what the era. If it be early 70s, mid 90s, if the album was a clunker, her songs are going to be worth the time listening to the album. And all of her songs could have fit in any era of the band. These songs could have fit well on Rumors, on Tusk, on Tango in the Night. Just great songs. And then Bob's got another song, Hypnotize. Bob liked his supernatural stuff, his sci-fi stuff, and this one's about UFOs. And then a nice little ditty called Forever. And then Christine's got another one called Keep On Going. And side 1's very front-loaded. Side 2 is much more forgettable. A couple of Bob Welch songs that just don't stick with you. The City and Miles Away. Somebody is a pretty okay rocker, but again, not overly memorable. And then Christine has The Way I Feel, which is a very nice ballad. And then for some dumb reason, they cover the Yardbirds For Your Love. It's fine. It's pointless. And they took off a song called Good Things by Bob Welch that's, well, at least better than covering that cheesy song. And then it ends with a song called Why that has a great slide guitar intro by Bob Weston. And this era of the band has a midnight special from 1973 that is absolutely 1 trillion% worth you checking out. Please do. So that is my 5th. And then my 4th is the first album in 1973 and the 3rd with Bob Welch. And it's basically the same lineup, but it also includes the singer from Savoy Brown, and his name has just escaped me. Let me see right here. Dave Walker. Oh my goodness. Who was also briefly in Black Sabbath in the late 70s. Wrote a few songs with them when Ozzy left between Technical Ecstasy and Never Say Die. But that, of course, is another story. This also is, I believe, the first album to introduce the penguin mascot, which shows up on a lot of their stuff. And I believe that is because Jim McVie was fascinated by the penguins at the London Zoo. So this one has a nice gatefold with the band there. And, these songs are much more memorable. Remember Me, very great Christine song. Dissatisfied, great song. Um, they do a cover of Roadrunner, and Dave Walker sings that, plays harmonica, pointless. It's fine. And then Dave Walker's, man, this song is great. The first song on side 2 is called The Derelict, and it is a folky, kind of schizophrenic almost ballad. I love the song so much. And that starts off side 2 rather nicely. Revelation's a nice Bob Welch song. And then another Christine Bob Welch song that has Bob Weston on vocals as well. Did You Ever Love Me? Heartbreaking song. Bob Weston sings backing vocals with Christine McVie on the chorus, and you can tell he's nervous about his voice. And it's very sweet, very innocent. And then closes things off with Bob Welch's Night Watch, and then a great Bob Weston instrumental called Caught in the Rain. So, these first 2 albums, Mystery to Me, I'm going to say 3 out of 5 stars. Penguin, 3.5 out of 5 stars. Again, not terrible. Great when you're listening to them, but not always memorable. Not every song is always memorable. So then Bob Weston is out of the band for shenanigans with Mick Fleetwood's wife, and you do not mess with Mr. Fleetwood. Papa does not play. And so they're a 4-piece for 1974's Heroes Are Hard to Find. So that's putting more strain on Bob Welch and Christine McVie. But, they really shine through on this. Title track is a great song. Christine McVie got horns. It's got some jazzy feel to it. Angel, great Bob Welch kind of mid-rocker. Bermuda Triangle, again, Bob Welch and his supernatural stuff. Fun song. Come a Little Bit Closer, beautiful, wonderful Christine song. Would have fit great on the 75 self-titled. Would have fit great on Rumors. Side 2, She's Changing Me, Bob Welch, upbeat, nice little love song. Bad Loser, great drumming from Mick Fleetwood on this one. And it's a Christine song. And then Prove Your Love is my favorite Christine McVie song. There's something about it I just love. I love Mick Fleetwood's drumming on it. It's just fantastic. And it closes with another instrumental called Safe Harbor that's just really, really nice. And it showcases how good of a guitar player Bob Welch was. In the earlier albums, you've got Danny Kirwan, you've got Bob Weston, but this is just Bob Welch, and he was a great, great player as well. So after this, Bob Welch, exhaustion, leaves the band. Buckingham Nicks come in. This era does not get a lot of attention because I believe in the 90s, Bob Welch sued the band for back royalties. And again, you don't mess with Papa Fleetwood. And so, these albums are still technically in print. They're still available, but they don't get a lot of the love that the Peter Green Days do, or of course the Buckingham Nicks do. So anyway, my number 2 pick is the first album from this era, and oh my goodness, the glare. And that is 1971's Future Games. So the first official album with Christine McVie and Bob Welch. Starts off with Danny Kirwan's Woman of a Thousand Years, very understated, very melodic, very fragile, very beautiful. Christine's Morning Rain, again, she just writes amazing songs. What a Shame is just a jam session that the label made them throw together. And then you've got the title track, Bob Welch's Future Games. Oh my goodness, what a great song. To end side 1, and then you flip it around to side 2. Sands of Time by Danny Kirwan is probably his best song. It is just a sprawling masterpiece of vocals and guitar interplay. Fantastic. And Sometimes by Danny, very nice as well. Lay It All Down by Bob Welch is a fine rocker. And then Show Me a Smile, Christine ends it perfectly, as always. So here we are with Future Games, 1971. And that, of course, leads Bare Trees, the first one I picked up from this era. I have 3 or 4 copies of this on vinyl. I'm not one who does this, but I love this album so much that anytime I see a copy, I get it. This was a new pressing, and it's still shrink wrapped. I haven't even opened it. I've got another one that's in a picture frame for art decoration, and I've got 1 or 2 more in storage, and then I've got it on CD, and I still have the cassette that I originally bought somewhere as well. So starts off with Danny Kirwan's Child of Mine, then Bob Welch's The Ghost. I mean, this album, it hits all kinds of different genres. It's atmospheric, it's rockin', it's folky, great singing, great melodies all throughout. Homeward Bound by Christine, just a fantastic song. Sunny Side of Heaven, really nice little instrumental. The song Bare Trees by Danny. Of course, look at this artwork. It's amazing. It's amazing. And then for me, Bob Welch's best moment in his entire career, the original version of Sentimental Lady. He'd re-record this, I should say, in an abbreviated and I believe bastardized form on his first solo album. And a lot of people prefer that, and it was a bit of a hit in the mid 70s or so. Lindsey Buckingham plays guitar on it. Christine sings on it. Different arrangement. I feel like this version on Bare Trees is so sublime and so wonderful. And there's people that I've read people saying that it's terrible. I don't get that at all. It's just, for me, it's perfection. And then Danny's chant, it's not real. It's a song, but it's la 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 la, And then Spare Me a Little of Your Love, and then Danny Kirwan's Dust. When we are dust, when we are dust. Oh my goodness. I just can't say enough great things about this album. I mean, heroes are hard to find. 4 out of 5. 4.5 out of 5. This is a 5. This is a solid 5 for me. Closes with a song called Thoughts on a Gray Day, which is a lady from a nursing home, I believe, either reciting poetry or she's saying something, and that's it. And I understand that's a little bit slight, but it all just adds to this album cover basically reflects what a lot of this album feels like. And so goodness, pushing 20 minutes here, and I swore that I would never go very long on these, and I tend to ramble about things I'm passionate about. But yeah, so that is my spiel on the Fleetwood Mac albums, Bob Welch era. Forgive me if I got Welch and Weston confused from time to time, but you can follow along. All of these are available on streaming. All of these are still available to purchase on vinyl and CD. Check all this stuff out and add it to your collection, especially if you enjoy the Buckingham Nick stuff. These are what led up to that. Anyway, so if you like what you hear or see here, hit like and subscribe. But most importantly, always keep doing what you love. Thank you.